Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, athletes, and everybody in between. Welcome back to our third episode of your favorite podcast. Can't believe we made it to 3 episodes, but your favorite podcast, EuroPinion. Like to have your opinion, but we also like to give our opinion with a little Euro twist on it. Today we are very blessed and lucky. I don't know how we made it happen, but we was able to get Coach Steve Know Dat Johnson, owner and founder of Know Dat Training, but also the head coach of the development team of South Kent Prep basketball. We have a lot to talk to him about, which we want to get into. But before we do that, we just want to let you know you are here with your two favorite hosts, Bo. Catch him if you can catch him. Rocking my South Kent gear today. You know, rocking it strong. We repping, just letting you know. And then my boy Alex, Alexander the Great, out
That's
of New
right.
Jersey. My pro hoop insight, my European plug, my connect, supplying me with the drug of European basketball, which I am addicted to. My man Alex the Great. You
What's
know what
up?
I
What's
mean?
up?
All right, so without further ado, we're gonna jump right into it. So again, as I said, we're lucky today to have Coach Steve Johnson. You've heard enough of me and Alex's opinions, and you heard us talk a lot. So we're gonna give our voices a break, and we really want to hear from Coach Steve. Now, just to give you guys a little background on who Coach Steve is. Coach Steve grew up in Stamford, Connecticut. He played his high school basketball at St. Luke's and scored over 1,200 points. He then attended the Fairfield University from 2011 to 2015 as a walk-on, earning a scholarship by his junior year, then becoming a starter slash captain his senior year. After college, he played one season professionally in Canada, and as a former Division One player and former professional player, he has years of experience playing at the highest levels and learned from some great coaches, including and but not limited to NBA, WNBA trainers DJ Sackman, Drew Handlin, Alex Basil, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, please correct me if I'm wrong, and Phil Beckner. He created his business No Days Off Training in 2015, but since he's been a full-time player development coach since 2019, his purpose with the brand is to be someone who he wished he had growing up from every aspect. When it comes to basketball, he continues to push the Know That brand to continue to provide service to better as many players and people as he can. Does that sound
That sounds
to you?
right. Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, as I said, we have a person here who's a lot of basketball experience as a player, as a coach, as a trainer, in every aspect. On his way to being a parent soon, I'm sure. He's gonna do it from
Down the
every
road.
angle. Down the road, he's gonna do it from every angle. So we're just really blessed to have him here. It's our first of many. But we wanted to get right into it, and as I said, we have Alex here, who's a father who's going through the process and I would love to hear you guys have a chat just to figure that all out. But we'll get started from here. So from the beginning, I would like to ask, what got you into basketball? What made it so that you like? What was the thing that made you fall in love?
It's crazy when I go back on it. Going to the park with my dad, and then watching them play. I vividly remember my first NBA game I watched. Back in like 1998. It was a Sunday afternoon. It was Lakers versus Chicago, so it was Kobe versus MJ. And after that, I kind of gotten a little bit infatuated with it, and it bloomed from there. I just was naturally better than a lot of the kids in my area growing up, so it's something that kind of grew into my identity. And then middle school came, and some things happened. I was a little quirky. I was a little weird in middle school, so kind of got bullied in sixth grade. But when gym class came around and I showed my athleticism and then basketball, like everybody stopped, right? So, from there, it was more of the fact that it just kind of developed into my identity and who I am. And that's when I kind of took it to the next level. And then obviously the rest is history.
Anything you want to add, Alex, or anything? If there's anything, just chime right in.
Yeah, no.
Okay. So you said your dad was a player first. Do you have any siblings or anything?
Yeah. I have two younger siblings. My dad played, but he never went beyond high school. Unfortunately, some things family wise happened where he couldn't pursue that. And then my younger brothers, so obviously I was a hooper. I had a middle brother and a younger brother. Um, I was always, I guess, I had coaching bug or whatever with my when it came to my brother, and I would always try to push him, but I think I was also too hard on him, and I think I kind of pushed him away from hoops. He ended up playing football in college and did track, but I was trying to push him to be better than who I was, and then it came off as really aggressive. One of my memories that I have was I got a technical foul during a game because it was me and my dad coaching him, and I got a technical because I was yelling at him too much. Even though we were winning, I was always trying to push him to be better than me. And I think that kind of affected him and who he was when it came to basketball. So I had to take a step back from kind of mentoring him on that front. So,
Okay, so now let me ask this. Being that you were hard on him because obviously you wanted him to succeed, right? I'm sure that has helped shape your coaching perspective on how you do things. My question is, now you said your father was a player. Let me just stay there for 1 second.
uh
How was he with you when you were a player? Was he on you about, the way you were? Is that where it came from? Or was it just like a natural competitiveness that you had that was like, ah?
I think it was. It was partially from how he coached me.
Okay.
And that comes from how his father was coaching him and things like that. So I was, unfortunately, again, I learned through kind of affecting my brother's journey. But my dad was harsh on me, like, but that made me who I am. Like my middle school years, he was really tough on me, saying, "Oh, you're not gonna get better by sitting and play video games all day." Um, you know, he reminded me when I went to go try out in high school. I went to the city a couple times for like at the time it was the Gauchos, New York, New Jersey, no, New York Panthers, and New York Metro Hawks. And he would leave work early, and when I didn't perform great, he would remind me like, "Hey, like I'm missing work. Like, you can't feel sorry for yourself." Like I would cry sometimes. Like I felt like I was letting him down at times. So it was those little things kind of, again, like you said, shaped me and who I am as a coach today. And I try to be aware of how I address people and know who I'm addressing. And then obviously I can, everybody's life is their life. It's individual. It's very specific to them. So it's very hard to balance all those things, from feelings to actually trying to win to all those things. And so again, it's always a learning process where I'm always I'm evolving and I'm learning much, and I'm, trying to educate myself. I have two great coaches that are at the prep level that I have access to on a day in, day out basis. And again, it's just trying to feed myself the right knowledge of X's and O's, but then also just development / relationships. I think that's the biggest thing, trying to build the right relationships, build these young men up. Obviously I also work with girls on the training side. So just trying to build them up in a different way, because everybody's, situation's unique.
Okay. So, Alex, someone like you who, we've had our conversations about even how you raise your son. You're from a different place, you're from a different culture, a different space, okay? But then I look at myself with Michael and I'm like, maybe I'm hard on him. You know what I mean? And I understand. I try to find that balance. Now, when I hear you say, from a previous generation, then go even further generation, Steve, of your grandpa, potentially how he raised your dad in this athletic atmosphere.
Right.
I ask you, Alex, you were raised in Eastern Europe where that was just like, there was no like babying and coddling from what it sounds like in your day. How do you take the way you were raised and transfer that to your son, but within the parameters of what's allowed, or like what's allowed in the culture of America youth sports today?
Um, I don't know what you mean by what's allowed, because
Like it's just today you
I,
can't yell, like you
you
can't
know,
yell, you can't coach, you can't be
yeah,
Bobby Knight. You can't.
exactly. So I don't know who sets those parameters as what's allowed. What's allowed in my house is, what me and my wife decide what's allowed. Like that's what's allowed. But I know what you're saying though. Um, uh, no, look, like my wife and I actually have discussions about this, and I'm old school, and but I'm raising my son, whether as a person or also as a basketball player, on the simple principles of, hard work. Basically, hard work is undefeated, discipline, and have a great attitude. After that, beyond that, I kind of leave everything else up to him, because in my opinion, the next step to becoming a successful person or a basketball player would be how much work do you really put in on top of the bare minimum, what we've discussed, by practicing as much as you can, where your practices basically are as efficient and as good as they can be, by you doing your own work without me having to force him. So I try to instill that work ethic in him without really forcing him. But the discipline that I want him to have is and hard work is the non-negotiable factor in how we are raising him. Now, with all that being said, I'm also stuck a little bit in that old, let's say, European mentality. So my wife balances me out, because one thing that we as parents and coaches need to take in consideration is that it's a different generation, and the kids today, fortunately or unfortunately, are growing up with having too many distractions in front of them. So we have to guide them, teach them, but also take that in consideration, that they are being raised under different circumstances. So we have to also make the adjustments and adapt to today's life versus when I was growing up, whatever it is, 35 years ago.
Okay. So, and again, just to touch on it a little bit, like, so with Michael, as you know, because we talk about our own, because I like to talk about other kids, and our own perspectives. With Michael, I like to, sometimes I'm a bit hard on him. We've been through, believe me, the rigmarole, and sometimes we still go through it. And it's sometimes you look at it, and I never want to be perceived as I'm trying to live through, or we're trying to live through our kids. But we're trying, like you said, instill a passion, instill a drive in them. Can you guys hear it static? There we go.
Yeah.
It's still a little, like, a drive in them, so that when we're not there inevitably, because like right now, the hardest thing for me in the beginning of the season, the beginning of the school year, was for the first time not being the primary person responsible for my son's development, and trusting that the people I'm sending him to have his best interest at heart, first of all. These are just my thoughts before I even met you, Steve. So don't take it personal. It's not about you. It's just in general, especially when at the time, Coach Chill is Coach Chill. Like, let's be honest. It gives a certain level of comfort of like, okay, I trust what's going to go on. Then when they say, well, Coach Chill is leaving and another coach. So now for me, it was like, okay, is this new coach going to have my son's best interest at heart? Does he know what's going on? So those are the factors for the first time that I had to deal with, that I had to learn, okay, I got to ease up, because there's some things I just can't control. So in those moments, and then when I see his development, I'm like, whew, okay, good. You know what I mean? So it's a give and take thing for me, where I'm trying to learn a better balance of being hard on him in a sense of, you got to always be aggressive, be intense, just be ready to bring it, because you never know who's watching. There could be a parent who's affiliated with a school that you don't even know, or they could be friends with this person and they know. So you just never know who's watching you. So I try to have him always bring that intensity, that I want to win attitude, that I feel like our generation was like ingrained in us. It was like, we just wanted to win. We would do whatever. I feel like, now again, you take me at his age, it was not even a question. I couldn't play where he's at. Me as a junior or senior, I couldn't play where he's doing. So some of those times I try to sit back, but I'm like, I'm still his dad, and I gotta, so that's my little 2 cents on that, I wanted to continue on with just the path of you being a player, from transitioning to a player to a coach. So we talked about what got you into it. So when it comes to your game and developing your game as a kid or a young, who were 3 of your major influences on your specific game?
That's tough because I mean I grew up just watching Kobe a lot. Like that was who, and I think that's where part of like who I became between him and my dad. Like all my dad, so I was really a shooter. Like that's it. Like all the dribbling stuff that I can do now, I couldn't do as a player, which sucks. I tell players all the time, like if I had this, I would have been a scholarship kid. Like just off of my work ethic, my tenacity, and who I was. I wasn't crazy athletic, but I played hard, and I always had something to prove. If back in the day, again, you looked at me, you didn't think I could play, and then after whatever we did, pick up or whatever game it was, they're like, oh, that kid can play. Like that was the goal, like just to make sure everybody had respect on who I was as a hooper on the court. If you talk to me like off the court, like I'm chill, laid back, but I just became a different animal once I crossed that line. And so, Kobe, probably I would say my dad, but another person that I liked was Chris Paul back in when he came into the league. I think my passing was kind of underrated. I just didn't have the ball handling, the creativity to be able to get people off the dribble, but I always made the right pass when it was needed. And then, once I got to high school, I was watching, Steph Curry at Davidson. So the shooting, he just kind of instilled that. It made me feel good that, all right, I might not be a crazy, ball handler, but if I could shoot well, I can make something happen. So those four people, I would say, kind of growing up, kind of influenced my game.
Okay, really good. What kind of player was your dad? Because I've heard him mentioned a couple times, but you didn't explain his game yet. You said he played in high school. What was his
Yeah,
game?
I mean, he was a shooter. Like that's
Right?
what he did, and he would talk his shit too. Like that's kind of like he wouldn't do that off the court, but again, I think that's where I got influenced as once I like my friends could tell you when we played pickup, like sometimes they hated playing with me because I was just so demanding. Like again, that's the MJ whatever,
Same
Kobe
way.
effect. Yeah, And so, but they understood it was like, this is just Steve when he on the court. When we're off the court, he doesn't say anything. Like he's just chill, right? So again, but that's where I mean, I wish he would have got the chance to do more, with basketball. But he he used to say he couldn't dunk and all these things. So like being able to have him watch me, one of my favorite memories was my senior year. We played Duke at Cameron. He took the flight down to watch me, even though I played like shit. Again, I started crying after that game. We lost by 50, but it was just like I had a chance to kind of show him like all the sacrifices he made. Like
We're worth it.
I'm playing against Coach K, Dad. Like this is crazy. So he was somebody that again just very influential when it came to basketball to me.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Alex, any questions or anything? I know you're more of like when we get to the prep school and things, because that's definitely what he wants to touch on. But I definitely wanted to go in chronological order through your timeline because you have an interesting basketball history and story and knowledge of the game. And I just wanted to see what shaped you to being, the person you are today. So as we keep going, before we even get to college and high school, you talked about sixth grade, gym class, you were bullied a little bit, but then you'll get in there and get crazy on them. When did you realize that, okay, I could play a little bit? And when you realized that, was there a time that you took it serious? Did you train, or was it just like how we grew up, pickup? I'm gonna play pickup with the boys and you get better that way.
Yeah. So that at that time I was going through again. It was just that puberty stage where it's just like so many things going on. Like I grew up in an area where it was like I wasn't with the in crowd at the time, and then the way I spoke, it was just like I was just like educated. So the concept of being down with guys in the hood and stuff like that, it was just like they looked at me and they're like, oh, whatever. Like there was a lot of things that were going on. Like my first day, kid called me the N word, and I'm like, what's that? Like I was really so sheltered that I wasn't exposed to a lot, and I was just in my own lane. I wore high waters, so like they were making fun of how I dressed. obviously, like after that sixth grade year, I figured it out. My mom kind of also, I didn't tell them those things, but it was just more the fact like, hey, mom, like can we get this pair of jeans or something, just to get a different like look going. And so, but that was kind of it. Like even fifth grade though, this was my first interaction with a coach that affected my game. And where it was just like I was killing it up to that point, and then local leagues, dad plays his kids over you and stuff like that, and my dad was like, "What's going on? Like, why aren't you playing to your ability?" Where I told them straight up, like, I feel like this coach doesn't like mess with me. Like, I don't, we're supposed to be playing. So again, it took me a while to get out of that, and then once I figured it out, like I was good. I was going. Middle school basketball. We were very competitive. We had a lot of kids that ended up going to play college ball from that middle school I was at, along with the kids in the Stanford area. So again, that's kind of when I decided, yeah.
A lot of good players down that way.
Yeah.
Being from the northwest part of the state, I know the ballers from here to like Waterbury.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like, then I know there's the New Haven all the way to Bridgeport and all the way. Then there's the Hartford. There's a lot of different sections of ballers. So I didn't really know many of them. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I know some of them, but I do have a question. So a theme I've heard so far from talking to both of you is the moms. It's fair to say your mom, you two-parent household, both you, and then Alex, your son, is from a two-parent household. And you said that from time to time, you and your wife have had to have conversations about old school. Let me ask this, Steve. When your dad gets intense like he does, because I know I'm the same way. Luckily, I have a great partner in Catherine, who is a former athlete herself. I always tell my friends when I work with a kid or a coach, it's so much easier when you have the mom on board also, because most people I deal with, the dads know what it takes or want their kid to push. They want to push them. But, most times the mom is just that, a mom. And her primary instinct is to her baby's happiness and safety and all of those things. So I've been in situations where I've got on a kid and the mom has, gotten on me. And then the dad's like, no, we're not doing that. No. He's coaching. Let him coach. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And me and the mom have grown ever since. And we've been really tight. But I've always been lucky in the sense of Catherine, who's, I always brag, as a former All-American water polo player. She's very competitive. So it's like if Michael ever complained growing up, it was like, I don't care. Go work out. You're not playing enough? Go work out. Oh, you want to go work out? 6 a.m.? Go ahead. 5 a.m.? Go. You know what I mean? It was never an issue with that. I would like to ask with you, Steve and Alex, I would like you to chime in with your mom's or wife. How was she when it came to your athletic pursuit? Did they even care about that? And then was she more of your, like, how was she? That's all I want to know. How was she?
From my perspective, my mother, she was an immigrant. She came from Trinidad and Tobago.
Okay.
So she came here with not a lot, and she learned how to save money and all that stuff. And she has her high school degree, I believe, but that's it, So her biggest concern with me and my brothers was just mainly getting an education, going to school, getting a job, like being able to have a life and be able to provide for ourselves. Like you said, just make sure that we're happy and we're chasing what we want. She didn't come to a game from my memory until like my senior year of high school. Mm-hmm. So she knew I loved it and she supported it, but she never really got into it until like my senior year. Even college, she came to a couple of my college games, not a lot, but it was more the fact that she just wanted me to get a good education, try to get a great job, but also find that balance with happiness. We talked about it, like basketball challenges you. There's days where you think, you want to quit or like you're going through some adversity. And, she was that calming factor, just like, hey, like, this is part of it. This is part of your journey. This is what you wanted to do, right? You fed this monster. She called it this basketball monster inside of me ever since I was in middle school, that I wanted to be like, I felt like I needed to do something with this game. And I think it's true, like, because I'm a trainer now, I'm a coach.
You're a basketball lifer.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just like you built up, she said, if she referred to it as a basketball monster. And so when you feel like you don't succeed in something, you take it, to heart, and like you got to understand, you got to give yourself grace as well. But understanding that you have a positive effect on people around you and things like that. So.
Okay. And Alex, my question for you, because I do want to know, because this gives me perspective. Your wife, where is she from? Where was she raised? Is she from Europe like you? Is she from here?
No, so my wife is Puerto Rican. She's born in Puerto Rico. Moved to Miami when she was young, probably about 6 years old. So basically born in Puerto Rico, but raised in Miami.
How was she? And again, this all shapes my question because how you were raised in Eastern Europe, I would imagine is a bit different being a young lady raised in Miami or raised in Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
And I would imagine that shapes her perspective. Maybe she could have been raised as a princess, so you being hard on him is like, whoa. Or maybe she had it, she was in the hood of Miami and she's like, yeah, whoop his ass. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
just wonder, how was she raised like quickly and to shape her perspective on how you are with
Well,
Alex?
she was, she it's funny because she was raised similar to how I was raised, let's just say, how people were raised at that time. She wasn't spoiled. Her parents were not soft. I know her, well, she grew up with a stepdad. He was a tennis, he owned his own tennis academy in Miami. So she kind of grew up also in a sports family. So she
Okay.
understands, she also understands the mentality of what it would take to be an athlete. And she was a ballerina when she was younger, or like a semi-professional dancer as well. So so
I
she
see your daughter dancing. That's where she gets
yeah,
it
yeah,
from.
exactly. So she understands that. She grew up very similar to how I was raised.
Okay, so now when it comes to sometimes, maybe we're too hard on our kids, and we've had to have, we had to get yelled at by the mom sometimes. Go ahead, go ahead.
I do want to add something because you said earlier how when you interact with the parents, how the dads will come and let's say put their two senses into it because they know what's going on. I'll tell you something though, they don't know what's going on. They think they know what's going on. The moms probably know better. But every and like this is a joke, but not a joke because I'm sure you've worked with a lot of parents, or we've been around a lot of parents ourselves, where our kids play for different coaches. Then also with me having my program and having parents approach me about their kids, that's also like a different dynamic. And you know how it is. Every parent thinks they know what's going on in basketball. Every parent thinks they know how to coach. And my perspective is, and it's a harsh one, but I know it's the real one, is parents know how to watch basketball. They don't know how to coach basketball. They don't know what it takes to coach a kid who is 10, 11, 12, 15, 16 years old. It's not a one, it's not a one formula, one
One
size
size fits
fits all type of formula. So they think they know what it takes to coach their child. All they know, and it's unfortunate, like I was also, I don't want to one of those parents, not to that level, but I was also one of those parents because you think,
Every time your thumb goes up, it does like a little thing. So I'm trying to see like, how do I get that to happen?
oh, because you think that you know how and what you need to do in order to coach the kid from the sideline, but it's completely different when your kid is a part of a team and you don't know the overall, perspective or the overall goal of that team. So parents chime in a little too much, whereas the only thing they should really be doing is supporting their kid. That's the big difference between here and Europe, because in Europe everything is more team oriented and parents do not get involved. Like they do not get involved. So I know you asked Steve. My parents didn't know anything about my practices. They know I played basketball. They support me. They made sure I can get there. They made sure I can come back. But besides that, they don't sit at my practices. They don't have to look at me. They don't need to micromanage me. You sign up, you play for a team, and then you just trust that that coach has the best interest, and that's it.
Now,
Uh,
guilty. I would say I'm guilty big time. Oh, can you guys hear me? Is this? Can you hear static?
yeah, I wanna. So about the static, the reason why I think when we don't speak, we should, like, right now it's good, but then the static comes on, so we should
Mute.
mute each other, or
Okay.
when we don't speak.
Sounds good. All right. So is there anything? No. So when I said parent, the father knows, what I meant was, I don't mean like he knows basketball. No, no, no. I mean he knows it takes hard work to be great at something. He knows that if he trusts the coach, like if I'm yelling at a kid and the coach and the father trusts me, it's a lot of times where I'm gonna coach the kid hard. I coach hard. It's just how it is. So there's times where the mom may see the kid sad or getting yelled at, and she just instinctively goes into protective mom mode. You get what I'm saying? Whereas the dad physically knows that no, he has to be pushed. Maybe his dad doesn't know his jumper form is broken or that he can't go left or anything like that, or his footwork sucks, but he knows that my son has to be pushed, is all I meant. Because a lot of parents, they don't, and I agree in the sense of they don't know what's going on the basketball court. A lot of them are only watching their kid and they only see the positives of their kid. They don't see that their kid just got beat. Even if my man didn't score, your rotation was bad. Your closeout was terrible. Alex will tell you, I watch videos, I'll send them to Alex and see what he thinks. And he's like, bro, Mike looks good, but he has to close out better. He's getting beat off closeouts. Steve, same thing you said, right? So I go to same way you talked about. I go to Alex. I'm like, I don't want to overreact. I don't want to choke Michael. Like, is he allowed to eat tonight? How'd he play? And Alex is like, yeah, he can have one cup of porridge. He's good. You know what I mean? Like, just one cup though. I'm like, all right. You know what I mean? But so as we keep going, right? I want to know. So then you went to high school. You went to a boarding school, right, Steve? Did you go all 4 years? Did you only go? How'd that go?
It was a day school, but I started at a public school, and just because we didn't know about prep schools, and so my mom didn't want me to go to our local high school, which I could walk. I could have walked to school every day, like it was a 3-minute walk, but again, it was a move based off of academics. So I went to like a magnet school close by where it was a technology base. So I would play for my local high school. I missed out on my freshman year of high school basketball because I fractured my ankle playing football, which, sucked because the team that I was on, AAU-wise, was really talented. And when I got cleared, I came back. I just couldn't compete.
Was that one of the New York teams, by the way?
So no, it was actually a Connecticut team, but it was coached by a New York coach. So what happened was he would,
Team in Connecticut. What team in Connecticut?
It was called Connecticut Flame.
Oh no, I didn't know. I didn't know if it was like CT Elite or CT Young Guns.
No, we played the Young Guns. That's when they had,
like that.
CBC, like all those teams. I ended up trying out for later, but I was trying to make that team. He brought his kids from Mount St. Michael's from the Bronx. So it was half Connecticut, half that, and that team ended up, probably half those guys ended up getting Division I, Division II scholarships. But I got cut because I wasn't the same player coming back from a fractured tibia. So I have a plate in my leg for the rest of my life. But, that's when I kind of stopped playing basketball.
I don't do that damn football stuff,
Yeah.
man. That's why I feel like I'm done with that. COVID?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, football was good for me because it also made me faster and jump higher. Like I was grabbing rim with two hands in 8th grade. I was on track to obviously start dunking, early and stuff, but it ended up that put me back a couple years. But by my junior year, I just wasn't happy. I thought I could have helped my sophomore year of high school. I thought I could help the varsity team. I didn't really get a chance. First off, I thought I got cut because my name wasn't on the list. Everybody was like, Steve, what? And then when I walked into the gym, I was just there to support my friends. And then the varsity coach was like, why aren't you dressed? I was like, I wasn't on the list. Like, he was like, oh, that's a mistake. I was like, oh, okay. Like,
I should have been my heart dropped.
yeah, like I was like, oh, okay. Like, you're lucky I have, back then we would wear basketball shorts under our pants and like always have our basketball shoes ready to go. But
Always.
and so, but going through all that, like, the assistant coach or the JV coach was this guy named Lenwood Lotta, and the assistant coach to him was the now coach at Notre Dame of Fairfield, who lost last night, and Coach K.
Okay.
And so, you know, with all that, they helped me develop all this stuff. But then, you know, I felt like I could have contributed to the varsity team. Didn't happen. But towards the end of the year, the coach was like, I guess he played at Sacred Heart. He's like, oh, well, if you stay, like, I can help you. You know, I think Sacred Heart will be a good look for you, da-da-da. And I'm like, all right, whatever. And then an opportunity came up where somebody reached out to me to go to St. Luke's. And so that's what happened there. And then I went there for 3 years. I reclassed while I was there.
So this is the part where I know I'm going to let Alex be head if he wants to be. He's going through right now the process of choosing a high school for his son, who's a high level player also. 8th grader, going to high school next year, natural, no reclass, but always has the option because he's young. Likes to keep, it's the trump card, keep it in the back pocket. Alex, me and him talk because Michael's going through the process right now, and he's pretty much at the same place Michael was, and as with the process of choosing a school and everything. Because I do want to ask you more about, now that you're coaching for the first time, but I did want to let Alex get in, where he fit in, get in some of his questions real quick. And so just a quick rundown, like I said, his son's name is Alex also. He's 8th grade, really good player, trains really, really hard. So they're going through the process of looking for a school, whether public or private or prep, and they're just making the decision. So I wanted this to be an opportunity within the segment for you guys to be able to chat, because there's a lot of parents, mothers, fathers, whoever, who may be going through this process or in the future will go through this process and could really benefit from these questions and answers. So Alex, take it away.
Yeah. So I mean, like I'm just curious, really, because these are some common questions that parents approach me with, even through my program. At what point or how do, let's say, prep schools or even public / private or mostly private schools start looking at kids? Like, how do you find your athletes? Because, and the reason why I'm asking this, I mean, I'm fortunate enough that my son has been looked at the schools that he's been looked at for different. Yeah, go ahead.
My bad. I don't mean to cut you off at all. That you make a good point. Let me just introduce him as as his coaching now, so that it makes sense why you're asking him. You know what I mean? Like these questions. I was talking more originally just about his perspective from how he chose his school, and maybe you could gain some perspective off of okay, for my son, this is how I can choose a school. But Steve, I do want to get into that, and he raises a good point. You are now coaching, at the AAA prep school level, the head coach of the AA team, which is the developmental team, but you're the assistant coach and one of the main coaches for the prep team, where this is the highest level of basketball, of high school basketball in America at a consistent basis. NEPSAC AAA basketball. You're not going to, oh, now I'm coaching middle school. No, it's like you're coaching the big times. And everyone knows at the AAA level, not only do you find the best players, but you also find the best coaching. As we had Coach Chill, now we have Coach Johnson, former Rutgers player, played somewhere, I forget where else he played, used to coach down at Florida State. You have a lot of great coaches in AAA basketball. Steve, you're now a coach there. You jumped straight from the minors to boom to the big league. So just to get your perspective really quick on what was your first year like? What were some ups and downs, maybe some common misconceptions that you may have had before, and it's like, oh shit, I didn't know it was like that, or maybe some things you thought were harder but were actually easier, just some things that this year showed you, and then we could get into how do you look for your athletes and what age do you start to look for your athletes. Does that make sense, Alex? I think that's good. Okay, so go ahead, Steve. My bad. I just wanted to keep it in.
Yeah, no, of course. No, it's I think that this year was, again, just another, like, as much as it was my team is called development, it was a development for them, it's development for me, where it was challenging. I think for the fact that you get a lot of kids. I had 14 guys, and trying to get them to understand and work for a common goal, which was to win more games, which didn't necessarily transpire. But if you guys were able to see the growth from the first game to the last game, I mean, the last game they were tired, but I mean, our second to last game we won. It was a really good year in terms of growth, and I think that's the biggest thing. As a coach, you want to be measured by not only just wins and losses, but the impact that you had at on their lives, which is, taking the game that they love and trying to help them grow and be better. And that was, again, just balancing the dynamic. Some of them are away from home for the first time. Some of them haven't been in this role where, like, I had technically six post grads, but none of them played at this level or had the role that they had this year. So again, it was just, and then I had to rely on two freshmen a lot, where it was a lot of pieces where I'm just like, well, this is tough. Like, these are my cards. This is what I was dealt, and I got to figure out how to make this a winning hand. And so it was just constantly moving chess pieces here, there, trying to figure out, all right, what should we do for practice? All right, are these guys wanting to get better? Are they getting in the gym? And it was just a lot of things to balance out. And it was very difficult. The younger guys have 4 classes. The older guys have 2, maybe 3 sometimes a day. So they had more free time. But again, it was a lot trying to understand how all this kind of fit together. And, but I'm happy with how, respectful the guys are. They were great, great, great boys. Like, I didn't have any serious issues with anybody attitude wise. Just, couple kids, which happens, is just trying to figure out if they really are built for this, or if they just, they're there just to say I'm at South Kent, so that happens. Again, so it's just trying to figure out how to better everybody as best as I can. So that was kind of how it went my first year as the head coach there. The assistant on the prep side, that was a different ball game too. Again, just understanding guys not knowing AAA basketball is up there nationally. I don't think obviously historically college coaches know, like, if you want a good kid, like, you got to look at the NEPSAC, right? Because, these coaches, at the AAA, AA, single A, some of them are all maybe former D1 college coaches, D3, whatever it may be, former players. And then on top of that, just the level and accountability that's being held is something that's easily translatable at the next level, right? So that's kind of, again, just growing. Like, some of these guys thought they were ready for it, but it was a growing period. And a lot of the prep guys, same thing. At the beginning of the year to where they are now, you wouldn't have thought, half these guys turn out the way they did. So again, I thought it wasn't as successful as we wanted to, but it wasn't a failure, if that makes sense.
So just to give a little perspective, Coach Steve is my son's head coach last season. He was his first year was Michael's first year. They actually started together basically at South Kent. So the thing so just to give a little perspective from my side as a parent, this is not an interviewer, this is a parent of a player. If I would be lying if I say I wasn't nervous before the season starts with Coach Chill leaving. Just to give a little perspective, Coach Chill is one of the greatest coaches in the history of basketball. Recruiter, everyone knows Coach Chill. Used to coach at Washington State, coached at UConn, Villanova. He's the one that started the South Kent basketball program originally, brought in Darrell Wright, Andre Blatch, Isaiah Thomas, all of these great players, okay? It's all through him. And then he left for a while to coach college, came back, and had another successful stint. So for me and Michael, that's who we had gone through. We were going to games, talking to him. He would come to, Michael would go work out with him and Coach DeGroat. So we had that connection. So a couple of days before the school year starts, we're in a meeting. Coach Chill tells us the Grizzlies just contacted him. They want him to come coach they want him to come in the front office of the Grizzlies.
Just so you know, he literally told me that 5 minutes before that meeting.
You get what I'm saying?
I had no idea.
We had no idea. They're right. So we no idea. He knew 5 minutes before we found out. So the Grizzlies contacted him. Now again, they're not coming to just get anybody. So you can't say no to you don't say no to the NBA. Like now, I'd be lying to say like, oh, like you know what I mean. Just as a father and a competitor, I would have loved to have like I don't know what he would have said. He would have hit Michael with like some Zen message, like Phil Jackson, and Michael would be windmilling by now. You know, in my mind, it's like he would have graduated as a freshman and been at UConn by now if Chill had a month with him. You know what I mean? Just how my mind is. But so once the season started, I was a bit on edge because I didn't know you per se. And that's when we had to have some conversations. And it was just, and one thing I said is I gained a respect for you in a sense of you weren't like defensive. It was like, hey, I'm coaching for the first time. I'm figuring some things out. I'm trying to get the hang of this. And I'm like, oh, I feel you 100%. And I feel like since like our relationship has grown even to the point where I could get you on the podcast. And again, we're so grateful for that. My question is when you're at a prep school, right? When you're at that level, what I see from the outside is a lot of kids, whether it's the AA, AAA, when you're at that level, most of those kids were the best players at their respective public school before they got there. So their role mentality before they even got there was to be the guy. Now you put all of those alphas in an environment where they all want to be the guy, right? And then we're told, and social media tells you today, you got to be the guy. And in a generation where the world is saying, no, it's positionless. Everyone can do everything. You got guys that are 7'2", shooting threes, and your guy. I mean, not saying you specifically. I'm saying in general, Wembanyama. Like, get your big ass down low. You got guys that big wanting to be a point guard shooting threes. Yes, blah, blah, blah. But my point is, how do you manage those egos and mindsets as a coach? And is this your first time having to manage those where you have some older guys who may be 18, 19 years old, and you have my son who's 14 years old, and it's like, okay, I got to look out for my older guys to get them some time, but I got to get my younger guys some experience. But the older guys get mad, then the younger guys get mad, and it's like, then the parents over there, like me, I won't shut up, I'm yelling, and I know you want to tell me, shut up. But like you can't because it's like, you got to be diplomatic, but I know if it was AAU, you probably turn and be like, Bo, shut up and let me handle it. I get it. Believe me, I get it. So I just want to know from your perspective, when you got crazy parents like me, when you got kids with attitudes and egos, when you got kids who are older and young, blah, 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 how do you manage all of that going on? There's so much going on.
I mean, you guys both coach AAU, so you know how it is. I think from my perspective, though, because I wouldn't say it's it feels like a longer season, but again, it's just trying to try to figure out those boundaries, right? Again, like going back to what I talked about at the beginning, where it's just like taking everybody's feelings into consideration, but also like, making sure they understand, like, I'm trying to do what's best for them, right? So as you know, like I had two post guys, like, right? And I wanted to give one post guy more time, but he just wasn't grasping the concept of he has to rebound, run the floor, try to protect the rim. Like, that's what it was. Like, and I gave him a couple minutes, but when you're at your size and trying to do those things and you're not doing what the coach wants, I'm trying to tell you that colleges won't recruit you if you can't do this. They don't care if you hit a three, because you're only going to probably take 1 3 maybe at the next level, because they don't want you to do that. They want you to be able to protect the rim, be good in ball screens, defensively and offensively, and just rebound the basketball. But he struggled to do that. Still trying to find him a scholarship school. Obviously some older guys, right? Had some things going on, right? Some of them were returners. Had a hard time swallowing that pill where, you may be coming off the bench. But again, I told everybody every practice is an opportunity to show me you can play, right? And you use that and be competitive with each other. Some guys, took it as a joke. Some guys took it to heart. So I'm going to play guys that took it to heart, because at the end of the day, I'm not doing my job if I don't prepare you for college. Right? That's the ultimate goal. You want to get to college, and then beyond that next level, if God lets you get to that pro level. But like, nothing changes. This is what basketball is. You're going to end up having to have a role. and swallowing that pill. That's why I said, like, I think one of the biggest lessons I learned as a college freshman, right? I was a practice player manager. I didn't touch the court. I didn't get a jersey till the end of the year. And so I was very humbled where I had to come off the bench. I had to give guys water. I had to do the laundry. I had to be the first guy off the bench once I got a jersey, dap everybody up, say, hey, good job, good job. Like, that's a humbling experience. These guys are getting a chance to play. I told them I wanted to go to South Kent twice. I just couldn't afford it. So again, I try to get them to understand, like, this is a very special situation for you where you have a coach that actually cares about what you're doing and how you're trying to grow and develop. I had 14 guys to worry about on top of trying to help the prep guys out. So that's 28 guys that I'm trying to, it's not all on me, but like I'm very involved with a lot of the players because that's who I am as a player development guy. I want to help as many guys as I can. So go ahead.
When you talk about player development, I know at this level, pretty much, everyone's athletic.
Yeah.
How do you as a coach value athleticism versus, skill? Because I don't care how skilled you are, you need some level of athleticism. And there are some athletes that can get away, but, how do you judge those as a, let me just say someone like Alex, whose son and my son, who may not be the most athletic right now because they're young. They're naturally 13, 14 years old. They're not athletic like that yet, but they are highly skilled, highly motivated, high IQ players. How do those players stand out for you as opposed to the players that are just coming down and taking the rim off the basket, windmilling? Are you looking at the little things like the footwork, the coming off the screen, right, left pull, or is it just about this guy's bigger, stronger, faster, more athletic? I say you specifically, just in general. Like
yeah, no, for sure. No, I think again, it has to be balanced. I think again, just me. This is me specifically to me. Like I've watched so much film. I've watched NBA. I've watched EuroLeague. I've watched college. I've watched some of these guys work out in person. From Jason Tatum, Tyrese Halliburton, Bradley Beal. Like all these guys, I've seen them work in person. Even training some of the, I have a girl who's at Notre Dame where she's projected top 5 in the WNBA draft right now. Like I've seen what high level players do and what their skill is. And then the combination, right? The elite of the elite are super athletic and they have skill, right? Obviously it's not going to be like that at 14, 15, 16 yet, right? Mm-hmm. So again, being able to see and understand, it's hard to say genetics, but like also look at the kid like, hey, all right, this kid, again, somebody on one of the other freshmen on the team, he's a freshman. He's, 2028, super athletic, just lacks basketball IQ and understanding the game. But he plays so damn hard with his athleticism, you have to look over those little mess ups, right? And then, someone like your son, Mike, right? He's not overly athletic, but he's athletic enough to play 18 and 19-year-olds. So again, it's like understanding like, all right, he can develop into something more. Just he needs the reps. He needs to be out there playing with older guys, knowing how to close out, knowing how to slide, knowing how to be physical with certain aspects of the game. Like, so again, it's just being able to see the potential, right? And then see from your experience interacting with the kid, will this kid be coachable and be willing to learn and drop the ego and be like, all right, my coach is really looking out for me. I'm going to listen to him. And that's what I kind of try to see from the interactions.
Okay. So now, I apologize, Alex. I would love to now get your questions. I just wanted to give a little rundown of who Steve was, because I didn't want you asking him about car oil. And I was like, wait, does he work on cars? Nope. Let's let us know he's a mechanic first. You know what I mean? So I just wanted the people to know that, he's a coach now. He's really, well, not now, he's always been a coach, but now he's really in the arena of high level basketball. And now that you're looking for a high level place for your son, or, just in that process, I would love to hear you guys now.
Yeah. So my question was, and it's not so much for my son, but to hear again from somebody who is directly involved with a high level school like you are, and being that you've gone through all the steps of coaching, let's just say, like going down to elementary, middle school, and working your way up. A lot of the parents, or the common consensus is that parents feel that their kids will get discovered playing AAU basketball or playing in this, and I can tell you I'm not one of those parents, and I could be wrong, but they're just, again, my European opinion, that, playing in all these tournaments, playing in all these games, traveling to all these AAU out-of-state tournaments, in order to get their son or daughter exposed to being noticed by, recruits. So I don't believe that that's the case. I've spoken with other coaches who say that's not the case. I'm fortunate enough, like I said, that my son, we kept loyal to my and true to my way of thinking and raising him as a player, developing him as a player. But just for everyone else that's out there that may not have access to, it could be even good coaching or good AAU programs, what advice or what can you say would be that coaches like yourself are looking, number one, in players at such a young age, if at all, anything, and then where do you mostly get your players from?
Yeah, so right now I'm recruiting. A lot of it, as crazy as it sounds, it's like a lot of relationship based, connections, right? So I think, with Coach Carter and Coach Bass, who are the prep school coaches, they're looking at, obviously they're recruiting kids, but a lot of the kids that are coming to them right now have been through either former college coaches, former, guys they played ball with who are heavily involved with the basketball environment, and things like that. So they vet them through that, and then we kind of look at the film together, like from highlights and stuff. I'm going through Twitter right now, right? I don't have as deep of a Rolodex, but there's a lot of platforms that are trying to help kids get exposure. So I look at that, and then I look at film, and then if a kid, again, this is where it's tricky. Like, all highlight films can make a kid look amazing, right? But if you can see, again, this is from a developed eye that I've been doing this for a while, and not just for, as a coach right now, but like even when as a player development coach, this was part of the thing that I would do to help kids get recruited. Just like, all right, make sure you're showing, a defensive clip of you sliding, taking a charge, or stuff like that. Just seeing the level they're at too. Like, there's a kid that I'm trying to recruit right now, kid 6'9" from Texas, doesn't look overly athletic. The competition didn't look great, but he's 6'9", and he has a little brother that's 6'8", right? He's 2026, the brother's 2028. If I play my cards right, maybe I can get them both there, right, to South Kent, right? But again, it's just like, those are the things you're looking at, looking at size. Yes, sometimes you look at the Instagram highlight film, seeing if a kid can do something, right? Boom. And then you try to talk and then get to understand their parents, right? I think parents are a part of the recruitment, right? If a parent is overstepping at certain times, that can hurt the recruitment. Like, I have a kid that I'm interested in, and it's a girl that I train, and the boy goes to the same school. The dad said he's a little bit of a head case, right? In terms of he got kicked off, but the parents made da-da-da. I still have to look at the kid because he's 6'9", 200. I got to see what can we work? Can we help him mature? But then if it doesn't work out, like, we have that conversation and be, straight up and candid, might have to move on, right? So those are little things, like, you can't look past like the height and size. For younger kids, it's at this point, to be honest, it's all about development, right? If you're playing for a program that is worried about wins and losses, like, that's not going to help your kid get exposure, right? Because that means you have a certain 5 that are playing in specific roles, and they're playing well in those roles. Those are the ones that are going to get looked at. You have 8 or 9, 10 kids on a team. Like, if you're not putting everybody in a situation where they'll be successful, then it's going to be hard to recruit. And I'm just talking, that's the majority. Obviously there's, guys, boys and girls such as your kids that are ahead of the curve, that are on the court a lot, so they're able to get seen easier. But again, I think it's relationship based. It's about creating your own luck. So being active on social media, Twitter, specifically for coaches. And then honestly doing your own homework and research. Like that's the last thing that a lot of people don't do. They don't go into, all right, I think my son can get, like you said, get recruited. But maybe they don't even know you exist. So you have to take that step and go out like, all right, let's see what private schools, New Jersey, Hun School, Blair, like and then let's look at the kids there. Oh, they got a lot of young guys, or these are pretty high level athletes. I don't know if my son or daughter can hang with them. All right, let's expand our horizon here. I've heard of NEPSAC, or there's other private schools, or do we have to go to a boarding school? Like doing the research, you don't have to know everything, but you have to know a little bit of something. I said this in the podcast I do. Like you don't have to be an expert, but you definitely need to do, like my dad, example. My dad, I didn't know about St. Luke's. My dad did a little bit of research and found a couple schools, right? The exposure to that, right? And, we didn't know much about New York basketball, but when I played in 8th grade, I did so well. One of the directors at the Gauchos said, hey, come to New York. The issue was my dad and my mom didn't feel comfortable for me to go take the train to play for the Gauchos in Harlem and take a train by myself at 14. That could have really changed my trajectory of my high school career. Like that's when Kemba Walker and Durant Scott and all these guys that were fucking killed. Sorry, excuse my language, but just killing New York basketball. I had a chance to be a part of that, but because I was young and my parents didn't know better, like that's what kids do to get the opportunity to play. They didn't feel comfortable me doing that. So again, just understanding the landscape and trying to create your own luck. And I think that's what parents lack. They'll be the loudest in the stands, or they'll record and make their own highlights. But if you're not doing it the right way, if you're not putting the right clips, who cares? They can score, right? Everybody can score. Can they cut? Can they set off-ball screens? Can they play help side in middle school? If you can play help side in middle school, you're out of the game, right? So again, it's just like those are things, and I'm not saying every single coach sees that, but it's just this is from me and what I would look for, because that's what I've experienced, that's what I've learned, that's what I've seen. Again, with my playing experience, just going overseas. Like again, I spent 2 weeks in Lithuania, and we had a bunch of Americans playing a couple of their second level league teams out there, and it was an eye-opening experience. Just the size. Like we played a team, we didn't have really any bigs, but we played a team where the starting lineup, I forgot what team. I have the picture on my phone. The starting lineup was 6'4", 6'5", 6'8", 6'8", 7'1". And it was just, and then watching them move. Dude who was killing us looked like he was 36, hitting threes, setting screens, being dirty, throwing the elbow, trying to fight around, pick and pop, knock down. We're like, yo, what the hell? Like, but again, it's just like nobody understands. Those are the things that will get you playing time. Those are the things that the right coaches will see and be able to help and get the exposure that you need.
Do you feel like those kids are few and far between with just knowing really how to play basketball in this era of social media where kids, I feel like no one, you don't get glory for setting an off-ball screen. You don't get glory for the little things that really make you a basketball player. Everyone just wants to score. So I just wonder, in this era, is it hard to find those kids that's like, all right, this kid is a player. He understands the game. Or is it easier because you have so much access to so many kids?
It's harder. Like just understanding the game, right? Just getting kids have been, again, I tell the team, I told the dev team this, I tell every kid that I train, I'm like, your generation's the most quote unquote physical skilled, right? Skill wise, like ball handling. A lot of you guys can shoot from deep. You guys can do every single layup that possible. What you guys lack is the IQ, like the understanding of how and why to do it. The understanding of, right, you don't need to dribble 20 times to create a shot. You don't need that. none of you want to play defense. You guys all, because we glorify offense, right? None of you guys want to do that. And so that's the reason why it's really hard in this day and age. Just the glorification of the wrong things. Guys want to rather watch highlight films and scroll, right? Like instead of sitting there watching a game, sitting there studying. That's one of the things that Coach Carter was preaching this year for the prep team, and we just didn't know if the message was getting through. Like we recently took them to a Fairfield University game, and we took them to Buffalo Wild Wings, and we watched the Kentucky game, but we don't know if they were like locked in on that, right? Like they weren't like, oh, we're eating Buffalo Wild Wings, like it's better than what we eat at South Kent, but oh, we're eating, but we're watching. Oh, they do, like Kentucky runs Zoom and a bunch of all these other things that principle wise that we're trying to show them at South Kent. But again, it's just not like, I don't know if it was registering that we're trying to prepare you for that level. So no matter what school you go to, there's going to be some sort of play style. Yeah, Zoom action play style concept that everyone's doing.
Obviously, everyone runs Zoom. Or maybe I was telling Titus. I was telling someone that literally you watch, and everything is the big man up top, 5 out, go this way, this one goes back door, handoff, or screen from the corner. Or it's just so many options out of the Zoom. Go ahead, Alex.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's really it. Like there's so many options, but like I want to go back. Like this is middle school and now also high school, and even college players. I think the consequence that caused this lack of IQ, again, in my professional European opinion, is the overwhelming amount of so-called skills coaches that exist, especially in the US. So now, going back to what I said earlier, it's the know-it-all parents that think that they know what's best for their kid even when they watch the games. The second, one of the worst actually things that they do is no parents are really quote unquote fighting or researching what AAU team or what coach they should have their kid play for in order to develop. They are signing up to do skills trainings with 3 different coaches throughout the week. And then you call that, and then they think that their kid is putting this work in because they jump, even in one day, they can go to 2 different skills coaches, but the only thing that they are learning or doing in those skills trainings is learning how to score, which you can score, that's against cones, dribbling the ball 17 times. So what happens then? So what's the consequence of that? You go, let's pretend, you go to South Kent, you go to any school, you go to any public school. You are not scoring like that. That's not the game on any level. Even at the lowest high school public school level, you are not scoring like that. So you're taking away the decision-making skill of your child when you play basketball. So all these kids are amazing dribblers. I don't even know if they're amazing ball handlers. They're amazing dribblers. So that's another, like dribbling and ball handling are 2 different things. And we are referring to high-level basketball now, right? Like we're not talking about the superior, physically superior middle school kid who can just get the ball and do any move and go through 5 people because he's just taller, stronger, faster than anybody else. You're talking about high-level basketball. Unless you know how to make a move, how to do your reads, how to set an off screen, how to slip, slide, ghost, whatever phrases, whatever plays, I call them concepts. Unless you know how to use that, you're not a basketball player. And I think that's what's been happening for too long now. And that's why it has caught up with kids, because it's been happening for so long. And now it's very difficult to reverse it. So, I mean, that's my opinion, because there is super talented kids all over, especially in the US, all over any neighborhood, any area. But overall they do lack the, we call it basketball IQ. They do lack the knowledge to play basketball the right way.
Steve, any response you want to have to that as a youth basketball trainer, a skills development coach? Maybe you agree, maybe you disagree, maybe there's no such thing as too much training, maybe there is, maybe there's too many voices. Because that's one thing about me with I always say that about kids also. You got your parents saying something, you got the coach saying something, you got the trainer saying something, you got your second trainer saying something, you got your uncle saying something. Everyone's telling you 1,000 things to do, and necessarily your messages might not line up. So sometimes I run into that problem, and then you run into a lot of times where, like, for example, I'll use my own son for an example. Maybe I feel that he's not doing enough, and I'll say to him, bro, you got to do more. You got to be more of a factor. Now, maybe he's interpreting my message as, I got to shoot more, I got to score more. But no actuality, so the kid's taking my message wrong, even though I'm saying you just got to be more of a factor and be more aggressive. So that's a factor at play also, where kids feel like they have to try to score the basketball or they're not playing good. And I think highlighting, like I do for Michael, play hard, have fun, be a good teammate. Focus on those three things, and everything else will take care of itself. I don't like to give them, you got to score 20 points, because then what if you have 18 points or 12 points, 10 rebounds, 11 assists? You're going to think you played bad because you didn't have 20 points, the mark that we set. So I never try to give them a number of like score. I just try to be aggressive. Like, you got to be a factor. And I think that a lot of kids can take those messages the wrong way and start to resent or play a different way than what they are being asked of them. So I believe that that's a factor also. One more thing I wanted to ask. I know it's getting late. I know you got to go handle some business, but I did want to ask, in the era of older players, whether it's reclasses in high school, middle school, whether it's like Patino said, they're not recruiting high school guys anymore. They're looking for, JUCOs or transfer portal guys. How does someone like me or Alex stay confident in the recruitment process when everywhere we're looking, they're telling us they don't want our kids, they're too young? How do I trust that you guys at South Kent are going to be able to make sure my kid or wherever Alex goes, they're going to make sure they're going to be able to be looked at properly, whereas we're in an era where they don't want young guys, especially our kids who haven't reclassed.
Come on. It froze. Can you hear me? I'm back? Okay. So that's a great question. That's a question that's ever changing. Honestly, it's an ever changing answer. So right now, I think the biggest thing is to trust that the development from, I think from a parent's perspective, let me start with that. Parent's perspective, the best thing you guys can do is continue to help develop. Going to what Alex was saying, like, yes, I agree. There's too many trainers, right? In terms of there's too many trainers that haven't had success or understand the concept of developing. Like, yes, your kid can dribble better, great, but like, can they use it in a game situation? Can they handle a defender handling them full court? Right? That's why you want to be a better ball handler, not a better dribbler, a better ball handler, right? Your handle is supposed to help you start an offense, create offense, or just be able to get to a different area to make a pass, right? Boom, or attack, whatever. So that's that. I wanted to just say that. I think the issue, like you said too, is just there's too many voices, right? It's hard to be able to tell an individual who to listen to, because obviously, one, if you're a parent, they're naturally going to listen to you. Two, on top of that, like if you have 3 trainers, then you have a different AAU coach, and then you have a high school, middle school coach. That's just so many things to juggle. And honestly, a lot of this generation's attention span is so short, they don't know who to listen to and who to tune into. So it's like, oh, I'm going to take this, I'm going to do this. Oh, they said this, I'm going to try to do that. Like, again, just too many voices, and it creates a bad storm. So it's just like trying to, again, it's hard to, but vet out the process. All right, let me talk to this basketball trainer. All right, what are your principles as a basketball trainer? Like, what do you stand for as a trainer? What are you getting out of this outside of obviously just, a transaction? Is it transactional, or are you trying to transform somebody, right? So AAU, hey, what's your success rate of placing kids at college? Or what's your success rate of getting kids to a good prep school? What's your success rate of parents, understanding what the ultimate goal is, right? So again, it's annoying, but it's the extra work that the parent would have to do to make sure they're doing stuff for the kid, right? So okay, so now let's rewind it back to the question you just asked. All right, it's hard right now, right? NCAA coming out with all these things. But I still think there are coaches that want high school kids that are developed though, right? So again, let's say you guys go through the process and huh?
They don't want any projects
Yeah,
anymore.
no, that's why it's important, right? With the skill set kids have now, the next step is develop them physically, right? Which is, I think, the number one thing, so they can withstand all these grown men, 23, 24, 25-year-olds. Two would be to teach them the next level, meaning they got to know the help side. They got to be there. They got to understand. You got to teach them terminology. Some people say fire, some people say ice, whatever it is, like in terms of fire meaning maybe double team the ball, ice, like just concepts that are known to basketball. So zoom action, teach you to be able to sit there, watch through zoom action. All right. So this is what happens. The hands in the passing lane, but his chest is higher than yours. All right. That's a hard step up backdoor, right? He's down. You can go either set a ball screen or you can come off for the zoom act, the handoff action, right? There's so many different things that if you can develop them mentally, which what we're trying to do, that also will prepare them. And then on top of that, just trusting that the connections that we were establishing and pushing, right? Right now, I'm making highlight films, right? Right now, I'm actually on, Mike's highlight and another freshman. But I did my senior for the development team. I did my seniors. I did a couple of my juniors, and I got to finish those two. But then I'm going to start blasting out to college coaches, right? And then on that's just college coaches taking interest in certain players.
I did have a question for Alex from his perspective. I do have a question for you, Steve, but I'm Alex right now, okay?
Okay.
Oh, I was about to say. What do you do as a coach or a basketball guy? If I'm from New Jersey, I'm Alex. I'm sending my son to you for the first time. He's away, okay? How do you help him to ease into this situation? Because, he doesn't have me there right now. He doesn't have mom. I understand there's a lot of boys that you take care of, but my perspective for me, I even called you and said, I would love for Michael to just have somebody that he can talk to if he's going through something, because I'm not there. And he's a 14-year-old boy. Maybe at 16 he won't need that. But for Alex, who's coming in at 14, what kind of things do you guys have in place or use personally to help with my young man coming in, who's at 14? He's going through a lot of changes in life. He's going through puberty. He's got some girls looking at him. He got to work hard in basketball, his grades. You know what I mean? He got to make sure his teeth is brushed at night. Got to make sure he's sleeping enough. All of these things. How could I be sure as a parent that my young man is going to be taken care of, outside of just on the basketball court? Because I think that's a question I get from a lot of parents of how were you so sure that Michael was going to be good? And I'm like, I had conversations with the coaches myself,
I think, I think honestly, again, this comes back to boundaries, right? Just when you're recruiting a kid, right, and you really want them, you want to make sure you have to continuously recruit them, right? I think that's something, college coaches do now, right, with the transfer portal, and also you have kids on your team, but you have to have that relationship with them to make sure that they're happy or, they trust you. And it's the same thing. That's why I said it starts now, right? Being able to have somebody that they can trust. So again, we had that conversation, then I approached Mike. And even, it's not just Mike. I've had numerous conversations with different guys because they were going to do different things. And I'm like, hey, if you ever need anything, if you ever need to talk about anything, we're here. I'm here for you. This is what we call the brotherhood, right? We're here to help you develop into a better version of yourself. And that even, obviously I've had my door open and I've told people, like all these guys, to like, hey, like just text me if you want. Some of them are mature enough to say that. Other times I have to shoot text messages like, yo, do you have a second to talk, or do you need to talk? Like, just want to check in on you.
And is this something that you knew you would have to do being there, or was this something that hit you brand new? Like, oh shit, I'm like really, because being at a boarding school with kids where they live there is different than a day school where they go home to their parents at night, where literally you're their guy, the coaches are their guys. Was that something new for you, or was it like I was expecting this, I'm used to it?
I think I was used to it because, as a player development coach, like independent one, like I always figured out ways. I needed to figure out how can I be separate from the competition, right? And it sounds crazy, right? Just being a human being, right? Again, a lot of the trainers that I know, they care about the kid, they show up, but not a lot of them go above and beyond what they do on the court with the kids, right? I go above and beyond where I actually I check in on the kid. I'm like, hey, how's school going? Like sometimes I shoot him a text. Sometimes I check in with the parent, like, hey, how's everything going? Like how's the like right now? Like I'm texting. I have a girl that I train. She's young. She's a freshman, but she's 13, right? Or no, she's 14. Sorry, she turns 15 her sophomore year. If she reclasses, she'll be in the right age group. And she just tried out for 2 Nike teams. So I'm just going back and forth to check in. Like they just drove to Philly and they was in the city. Like, so I'm just like, hey, like how's it going? Like, how did she do? Boom. Like me and the dad have a good rapport. And then I check in with her like, yo, how'd you think you did? Like just little things to show that you do have their back. And I do. It's not superficial. Like I genuinely care. Like I want them to be the best version of themselves, and I want them to be great if they choose to be. Right. So again, coming into this, I just didn't think my issue was with this year was coming into it. I didn't think I'd have to babysit in terms of convincing guys to get into the gym as much. Like in the past, I know guys live in the gym. This year, it was kind of like pulling teeth where this cohort, this group from, at South Kent, they said they lived in the gym. They said they were about this life, but it wasn't what I thought it would be. And I constantly was preaching that. Like, yo, I open the gym every day at 6:30 for you guys. Why is it only 4 or 5 of you guys? I'm not saying you have to come in every morning, but why is it only the same 4 or 5 guys on and off for, 3 or 4 days of the week?
Break it to me right now, live on air. Break it to me live on air. Break my heart. Was Michael one of them?
No, Mike came.
Oh, okay.
Mike would bring, he would drag Kid Davari, like he brought guys.
That hurt, Alex. I don't know the truth. I gotta know. Alex, is there anything else that you wanted to ask? You good?
No, I'm good.
Okay. So my last question, because we live in an era of reclasses, right? My son is not a reclass. He's young. Alex's son is young. How do you decide whether a kid should reclass or not? Because before Michael came to South Kent, I had faith in my son. I knew my son could play at a certain level, and I knew the work that we would put in would no one else would match us, even though there are plenty. But that was just the mindset. But a lot of people were like, yo, he's young. If you reclass him, he'd be a 5-star in the 8th grade, and he'd be ranked, and he'd go to Chris Paul camp, and he'd drop, and then you got the ones telling me, yo, send him to the public school, he'd average 40, and then he'd get all these looks. And for me, it's like, nah, I want to put him in the fire. Like, I want him in the fire. Now I believed in my son, Alex, but there's a lot of people out there that they get duped by these AAU coaches or whatever it is, and it all comes down to their AAU team looking better. You're reclassing this 8th grader to 7th grade so he can dominate 7th graders. Now your program looks better, like you're producing better talent or whatever it is, or higher quality talent, whatever the reason is. How do you feel about the reclass situation? Now, I understand it's all situational. And then what do you look for as a coach? Do you value youth? Do you value the freshman that comes in ready? Or do you value the guy that comes in, needs some work to get better, you see the success story, boom? What do you look at?
I'm gonna do a podcast on reclassification. It's a long conversation, right? It's, again, like you just said, it is situational, But again, I mean, for the normal kid, the normal basketball kid, like you shouldn't reclass, right? In terms of just right, if you just want to play ball and maybe compete for a Division 3 spot, I don't think there's no a need for it, right? Boom. Now let's say you have these basketball guys, right? One, I think reclassification is not bad in middle school because, again, you dominate that league, whatever, cool. Or you could have them reclass and just have them play up, right? I just talked about this on a previous podcast that Elliot Cadeau, who's at North Carolina, starting point guard. I was training him when I was at the Patrick School. Reclass him and Tahad Pettifer at Auburn. They both reclassed in 8th grade, right? I think Tahad was a little younger, so his reclass kind of didn't make him older. But Elliot was older, did the reclass. But fast forward, like he played up, right? So that doesn't mean like you reclass, you have to play your age. You can still play up. Just academically and whatever prep school you go to, that's your grade. Let's say, and then he killed it, obviously, and boom, I reclass back up. That's the other part. I don't think if parents were to understand that, they could do that as well. And then you have the other option of going through your high school career and nothing transpires, and you do a post-grad year. Like I've had a couple coaches ask, one guy on our team, he was like, yo, would he be interested in coming back to South Kent? I was like, I don't know. So some coaches may be interested. They see him, but maybe they need an extra year. So no matter where they go, right? That's why I said it's all synergy. Like the AAU has to line up with also the high school, and it gets very picky and choosy in terms of who I prefer as a coach. I don't care. I honestly don't care. I need guys that, if he needs an extra year, great. I'm going to develop him. But let's say I have two. I have a reclass freshman or a reclass. Say I have a reclass sophomore and I have a true freshman, and they're both at the same level. It's going to just be who competes harder in practice, right? At that point, right? It's different at the prep school level than it is, I would say, at a public school or even just college. College is a different monster. But again, there's no preference. It's just, you have to understand being self-aware where you are and self-aware as a parent or coach or whatever, where your kid is. Have that conversation. And again, this is something that I like to hear. Like I heard this, a coach said on Instagram, he was like, you're a Division 3 player until you are told otherwise. Okay. Think about it. So if you don't have a scholarship offer, that means you're not a Division 1 kid. So whoever's telling you you're a Division 1 kid, that's not true, because if you were a Division 1 kid, you have offers.
Mm-hmm. No, I fully agree.
I have a quick question. So curious about the reclass, because I still actually don't understand how what it is. Like, okay, it's holding a kid back, reclass. So let's just say, we can use my son as an example. 8th grader, he's being recruited. But seeing that you're playing with kids who are 19, like if he goes to a boarding school or whatever, prep school, you're playing with kids who are 5-6 years older. So then from a basketball perspective, you're like, what, a reclass may not be bad. Gives him another year to to develop more basketball IQ, and physically, really it's more about the physical development, because he's still, he touched puberty, he's going through it, but he has not developed it. Obviously, like Bo even mentioned, he's athletic, he's not a freak, but I believe that he could become a pretty freakish athlete, knowing how I was before I started training and whatever else. But the question is, when you reclass somebody, does that actually mean you just don't go to school for that 1 year, and then he shows up to go to, let's say, 9th grade next year? So he's in 8th grade right now. Then what is the actual process? Like, what do you do?
So essentially what you do is, it depends on where you go, right? So there's a bunch of these middle school, Catholic middle school, even private schools. So let's even, I don't know if Blair does like K through 12. They might, but you essentially, like St. Luke's, when I did it, like went through my junior year. We reassessed at the end of the year. Like my GPA before I got to St. Luke's was like a 3.9. It dropped to like a 2.8, 2.9 once I transferred there. Their sell to me as a private school was like, you use this year because they're based on academic success. You use that year to get your grades up, and we can still sell you to, we can get you to college off these grades. But we think if you get another year, your academics can make you more marketable for a wider selection of schools. So as an eighth grader, though, it's almost the same thing, right? You would go there, you would ask them, hey, do you have high school classes he could start taking? Like maybe like, I don't know, pre-algebra, not algebra, I'm bugging. Pre-calc, not pre-calc, wow. No, it might be algebra, whatever it is. I don't know what you know what I'm saying? So like you would ask them, like, can he take high school courses, right? As that reclass eighth. That way he's still on track to graduate if you want to early. And by the time, let's say he's a senior, let's say he has all the things the NCAA clearinghouse needs, he can start taking college classes so he has college credits, right? So those are things, again, parents don't realize that they can do, but you have to find the right school that offers that situation.
Right. But can somebody just take a year off? Like you go eighth grade and I take a year off and next year I go to high school?
I honestly, I don't know that. I don't know. I just know, so example, and I'm not trying to bash anybody, right? Like the school that I was at, I was at the Patrick School. This was 2019, right before COVID. And this is where I met a bunch of those kids. Like I met a bunch of eighth graders. Sean Spencer was at the Patrick School when I was there. It was a basketball academy. So this is their schedule legitimately, right? 8 a.m. basketball skills with this guy named Delson Training.
Yeah.
They have an online class on a computer. Not even like a teacher doing much.
Right, I know. Yeah, I
Yep.
know.
And then they had weight room session, then lunch, then maybe one more class, and then one or two more classes, and then I would train them in the afternoon. I was the afternoon trainer. Delson was the morning trainer.
Right.
But
I've done my research, I know.
Huh?
I'm one of those parents that will do the research.
I know. I'm just saying, but I'm saying that's a basketball academy. The
Right.
issue with it was some of the classes did not translate, so they can go to a Bergen Catholic, they can go to a Blair Academy. They could have that's why it's important to understand if you're doing it in middle school, you do it at the right place for the right reasons, right? And then again, high school is a little different because you have, you're more prepared for college.
Yeah.
Well, shoot. Is there any other questions you want to ask, Alex? We have a wealth of knowledge right here. And I just want to say, as far as the research, right, as parents doing their own research, AAU really did a lot for me for showing me that AAU don't do shit for you. You get like you hear these coaches that are like big time. They're like, yo, I'm connected to this person, and I know these coaches, and I know this dude, and I got front door relationships with this overseas team, and in all actuality, not a single high school coach that we applied for asked, what was your AAU record? Did you win the nationals at Made? How much did you average for Marquee Hoops? None of them gave a damn. I was blessed because I'm from Torrington to be able to go to a game one time after I graduated high school. I went to a South Kent game, never even heard of it, but I was a big fan of high school basketball. That's when Eric Gordon, OJ Mayo, and Michael Beasley were flip-flopping every year for the number one player. Eric Gordon just put 42 on Michael Jordan's kids on ESPN. So the next week, Beasley was playing at South Kent instead of in Connecticut, and it just so happened. You remember Damian Saunders? Went to Crosby, played for Duquesne for a long time. Dame, like 6'7", long, athletic. He's a trainer now. But he went to Notre Dame Prep with Michael Beasley. He had a scholarship to Marquette right out of high school, got caught. Back when weed was heroin, when weed, I looked at his crack, he got caught with like some weed on him, and they took his scholarship away from Marquette. He had to go to Notre Dame for a post-grad year, and he played with Michael Beasley. So I just knew he was there playing with Beasley when they said South Kent. I went to watch, and I was blessed enough to see Isaiah Thomas versus Michael Beasley. And it changed my whole perspective on, oh, shit. I thought this was good basketball, hearing public school. This is 30 minutes from me, and I never knew. So from that moment on, I literally said, when I have a kid, we work, sending my kid to South Kent. So I always knew what it was and had a higher regard for it. I got blessed in the sense of I didn't know the inner workings of like, oh, this was Coach Chill. Then Coach Chill left for a long time. Then when we applied again, Coach Chill was back. You get what I'm trying to say? So like I got lucky in that sense, but I just say that to say I did my own research. I reached out. I called the school. I called Coach Chill. And not one time did he say, you know, Bernard at Black Ops? You played for Black Ops? How much do you average at Black Ops? Didn't care. He said, all right, bring him down to pick up to see if he could play. I brought him down. Michael is a 13-year-old. And the team last year was stacked. I mean, with Nate and JoJo, and they were stacked. No offense to the team this year, but last year's team was a different. You're on mute, by the way.
Oh, my bad. Yeah, no, the last year's team had 9 Division I commits. And he only played seven, 8 guys.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Different level back.
Last year.
Because correct. Even one of our players who would have been arguably our best player this year left when Chill left.
My bad. Kelvin. From what I was told, that wasn't his decision though. That was the people in the circle. Yeah. But we won't get into that.
Too with a lot of these kids there, because some of them, like some kids are from Africa and they're part of these programs where this program that got you here, this AAU program, is affiliated with this school. So they don't want you at this school. They want you at their school so they can keep that relationship. You get what I'm saying? It's a lot of politics because a couple of those coaches reached out to Michael based on relationships he's built this season. You get what I'm trying to say? So we couldn't, but I'm not, we ain't leaving where we at. We're in too good of a situation. You feel what I'm trying to, not even saying that they were trying to do that, but when I talked to Coach Carter, he was like, just be wary of, this how it's flowing. So I went through him like, what's up with City Rocks? And he's like, oh, I love A-Bar. That's my guy and everything. You get what I'm trying to say? Like, so I'm starting to see that there's, like you said, there's connections with certain schools and programs and, all of those things. But I was blessed in a sense to just be who I am as a person. Alex, you know my personality. I don't mind reaching out to the school and being like, hey, come on. I have one here. I got one for you. What are we doing? You get what I'm trying? Because there's a lot of parents that's going to front and my kid is good. The kid can't go left. You know what I'm saying? Like, Michael, I train him. Alex knows, like an Eastern European. Like everything is footwork. It's skill. It's the little things that really matter to me in basketball. And I was happy he was able to show that this year. And I want to thank you again, Coach, for the last thing I'm going to say. I thank you so much for your time, effort, and energy this season with Michael. But not only then, right now. And as I texted you before, I appreciate what you've done for Michael and will continue to do for Michael as I predict. So I'm grateful. Thank you for your time today, Alex. You know what I mean? Shout him out. Anything you want to say? You're on mute.
Thank you. Thank you for the info. Thank you for your input. Yeah. Thank you.
Appreciate you. Hey, you never know. I'm trying to recruit Alex, so you might have him over there. You know what I mean? European player.
Hey, man. Whatever. Hey, right now, like I have nobody. I gotta.
Let that happen.
Yeah, no Husak. Oh my God, we need to snag a couple of their tall guys though. I'm not gonna lie.
I told him truthfully.
I don't know.
They have a nice Eastern European, like they move the ball well. They have a nice.
Oh yeah, their offense is great. They run a great offense. They just don't have the talent per se to hang.
They're gonna get it.
Yeah.
They got a nice little thing going on. So I'm gonna let you go, Alex. Man, Steve, I appreciate you, man. Big time, Alex. I'm gonna holler at you later, man. I really appreciate you guys.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Steve, I got some players for you, man. You gotta holler at me.
All right.
Big boys, I got a 6'10" dude for you right now.
Hey, you let me know. You let me know.
I got you. All right, buddy. Later, guys.